Hi, BookTube. It's Gina, and I wanted to do a tag today. Even though it's Wednesday, I seem to be a day behind for some reason recently. This is the comfort read tag. It was created by Taylor over at the Babbling Bee, and I saw this tag a while ago when she first created it. I plunked it in my want to do list and then promptly forgot about it. So I wanted to do it now. This is the comfort read tag, all about comfort reads. And if you know me at all, you know I love my comfort reads. So let's get started. Prompt number 1, The Kettle's On, a book of steadfast comfort, always there for you, makes any day better, like a cup of tea or your favorite warm drink. And for that, I've got to go with The Lord of the Rings. These books, I mention them all the time. I talk about them a lot because you know I love them. I think when I want to nestle in and find comfort and reread something that I know I'm going to love, The Lord of the Rings just hits all of the bases for me. I love this series so much, and it is definitely like a cup of tea to me. Prompt number 2, Grandmother's Quilt, a book that reminds you of a loved one or a comforting book that was given to you or read aloud to you by someone dear. And for this, I'm going to actually go with Les Deux Frères. This is a French Grimm's fairy tale. I can't actually read it because it is in French, but it's absolutely beautiful. And I put this one on here because this book was brought to me as a gift from my sister. She bought it at the flea market in Paris, and she knew how I loved books. She knew how I loved Paris. This was before I had actually ever been. And so even though I actually can't read this story, I sort of know what it's about because I've skimmed through it. I love this book. Prompt number 3, Warm Spices, a book with particularly vivid prose or imagery, a story comforting in its richness, depth, or vibrance. And for this one, I'm going to go with A Winter's Tale. Winter's Tale, by Mark Halperin. And I love this book. This is magical realism set in America, set in the magical city of New York. And the passage that I'm going to share with you is from one of my favorite scenes out in the Lake of the Coheries. Virginia Gamely is a character. She's trying to get from the country, and she's got this calling to go to New York City. She doesn't quite know why. We find out later. And she has a hard time because she's in this wintry, frozen lake situation. She goes around a corner. She's packed up her baby on her back, and she's got a person helping her with some luggage. And she bumps up against a pile of snow, a drift that is 1,000 feet high. And the innkeeper will not go with her. He says he can't possibly make it. She will die if she tries to climb it. But she says, no, I'm going to climb it. With that, she turned away from the innkeeper and began climbing. She found that by means of a chain of small steps driven into the dense snow, she soon was high above the ground, like a worker on the face of a dam. Had she fallen backward, she and Martin would have gone through the ice like a cannonball, never to be seen again. But she didn't look back. The left foot was always forward. She breathed calmly, and she concentrated. In an hour, she was nearly at the top, standing vertically in the holds she had dug in the snow, with hands and fingers stuck in as deep as she could push them, and spread as wide as she could spread them to get a grip. Sleeping peacefully on her back, Martin was suspended 1,000 feet above the ice. Down below, Mr. Fetley was running back and forth like an ant, amazed, afraid, and angry. Virginia slowed just 5 feet from the ledge that formed at the top of the drift wall. Unfortunately, it leaned out to get over it and into the curtain of mist, she would have to climb while leaning back. And this story it is weird. It is wonderful. I absolutely love this book. One of my favorites of all time. Would I say it's cozy? Not sure about that, but it's very vibrant, very rich, and absolutely wonderful. And a little bit bonkers. Prompt number 4, Candlelight. A book that keeps you going or encourages you when things feel dark. And for that, we're going for my old favorite, The Wind in the Willows. I've mentioned this book a bunch of times on here too. This is also one of my favorites, one I reread quite frequently, and it is just so wonderful when I'm feeling stressed out to just settle into the world of rat and mole and badger and the crazy toad with his car and his mansion. Prompt number 5, Laugh Medicine, a book that makes you laugh out loud or grin widely, coming to the rescue on the gloomiest days. So right now I'm actually reading 3 Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. And this is a buddy read, a group read with Book Time with Elvis. And Mark is leading this. This book is so funny. I had no idea. If you have not read this book before, definitely check it out. It's hilarious. It's about 3 English gentlemen, young English gentlemen back in the Victorian era, trying to plan a trip down the Thames in a boat. And it is a howl. It is so funny. So I'm going to say that one first, but then I also have to say, I'm going to also go with Tales of the City, the whole series by Armistead Maupin. I haven't reread this in a long time, but this is funny, also a little bit sad. It's set in San Francisco, and so it's got lots of wonderful characters, and this edition I thought was beautiful. And I bought this at my beloved Third Place Books up in Seattle. Isn't that pretty? So this is also very funny, but also a little melancholy and a bit like a soap opera. Prompt number 6, in bed all day. You've got your warm drink, a cozy blanket, maybe grandmother's quilt. What do you read when you're curled up in bed all day? Or for a couple of hours anyway. And for this, I'm gonna go with a big old pile of Agatha Christie. This is a Caribbean mystery, and isn't that a fun old vintage copy? And I have a need right now to grab a big pile of these. I've got a huge shelf of them, and pile them up around me, lay in bed, and just read all day. I might actually do that coming up here soon. Prompt number 7, Endless Comfort, a book that brings you solace no matter how many times you reread it. And for this one, I am going to go with my beloved misread Thrush Green series. I've got a whole bunch of the beautiful hardbacks here, but I specifically picked this one, this ratty old paperback. It's been rather well loved, shall we say. This is the first misread that I ever read, so this book will always have a very special place in my heart. I read it during a tough time in life, and so whenever I really want comfort or solace, I do turn to Miss Reed. Now, I've also got all of her Thrush Green series on my Kindle because I love laying in bed and reading these at night in the dark, under the covers. And so the Kindle is a very, very nice way to read these books. Prompt number 8, a book that restores your faith in humanity, faith in life, faith in yourself. A book that says it's going to be okay. The world is full of good things and tomorrow will be better. And for that, I'm going to go with Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, because that is what this book is all about. And prompt number 9, a basket for your neighbor. Just as it's lovely to be comforted by books, it can be lovely to pass the comfort along. Imagining you were putting together a cozy comfort basket for your neighbor or friend, loved one, take your pick. Which book would you include? And this is a book that I have not yet read. I'll put a picture of it up here. It's called Bird Cottage, and it is the story of a sort of a fictionalized true story of a woman who moved out to the country to a cottage and bird watched. And it sounds wonderful. And my neighbor and good friend and I love birds. We have some acreage up here. We're bird watching constantly, feeding the hummingbirds, putting out bird seed, feeding the blue jays peanuts. And so I'm going to read this book. And if I love it on my Kindle, I'm going to get her a copy. Don't tell her if you see this. And the final prompt is a walk in the woods. Though we'd like to stay curled up indoors with our books forever, or at least I would, we've got to venture into the world again sometime. A walk in the woods always helps me feel refreshed, unless I happen upon a spider or something, but let's not think about that. I agree. Tell us about a book with beautiful nature writing or a book that restores your peace. And for that, I'm going to go with The House by the Sea by May Sarton, who I absolutely love. She wrote a lot of these diary formatted memoirs back in the 70s and 80s. She also wrote a lot of poetry and a lot of fiction, but her diary memoirs are always my favorite. And this is one where she moves from her small country town to a house by the sea. And I love this book so much. This is a passage talking about the woods. All these days, the woods have been full of surprises as the spring flowers blossom one by one. My favorite, the strong, geometrical white bunch berry with its 5 pointed stars, is out now. And of course, the lady slippers. Suddenly I see them standing among the fallen leaves of autumn or on pine needles, so elegant, I catch my breath. And with that, I will say thank you, BookTube, for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.